Yeah, it's a really interesting place where we are today, and we've seen a lot of transitions in what attackers are doing across the internet. From the early days where it was for fame and fortune, to nation states moving their espionage efforts online, and now, in the last few years, we've seen this new wave of criminal groups trying to monetize attacks through ransomware. So it's really interesting. When it started out, it was simply put very opportunistic. They would try to find systems that were vulnerable to an exploit they had, typically a known one that just wasn't patched. And wherever they could get in, if it was a viable company that they thought they could get ransomware from, they would encrypt the hard drives and then demand ransom. Today, we've really stepped it up on that side from the attacker's perspective. Today, it's targeted opportunities. They're going after organizations they know they can breach, as well as steal data from them. So not just encrypting, but stealing data from them as well, and then encrypting the drives, and then notifying the organization that they've hacked them and we've got your data and you need to pay us a ransom. And then, of course, the additional piece is if they don't pay the ransom, for many of them, they could use extortion, by releasing sensitive intellectual property or corporate emails or a number of different things to ensure that that organization is going to pay up. So it's a really interesting space we're at today, and it's going to continue to evolve, because the one thing we've seen since the beginning of the internet are these attacks evolving over time.
Yeah, and Sean, the cyber threats, I know PwC just came out with this new survey this morning, and cyber threats jumped to the CEO's #1 concern in your survey. And so therefore, companies, they're spending much more on it.
That's right, Elizabeth. It's really affecting, I think, our way of life, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks with the Colonial Pipeline and now with JBS. And CEOs are realizing it's affecting their operations. They're not able to function as a company. And it doesn't just take weeks to recover, it actually takes months. And as Tony mentioned, the ransomware threat has really evolved over time. And I'd like to add is it's now ransomware as a service. So not only do we have the criminals doing it and developing the ransomware themselves, but they're actually selling it to other criminal groups and actually forming a loose cartel, if you want to call it that, and getting a piece of the pie. So this threat is really, I think, on CEOs' radar now, as they've seen affecting major companies. I think it started back in a malware called NotPetya, where it affected some major companies like Merck and others. And now we're seeing it's really coming to the forefront, I think, to us as consumers, right, with Colonial and now JBS.